Next section is about the basic chart. In the basic chart, I'm going to use the very basic chart, which is the Google chart. Okay. Now I'm going to start with the definition of charts. In many libraries, they say the terminology with chart, but some of them they use graph. However, I think let's use charts to represent the visualization. Okay. Chart is one of the way to visualize the data. So there are many frameworks providing the chart templates. For example, the Google chart is one of the template. So let's see. Mhm. So using the chart gallery, you can see there are many charts that are available. So you can use based on your needs. If you need to use the timeline, then yeah, you can use the timeline chart, and then you can check. For example, yeah, this is the HTML. So based on this HTML, yeah, you can try to get the data and then how to use the data and show the data into this chart and so on. So we are going to look into the details, how to use some data and then how to create this chart. So there are many variations of the charts. I cannot explain all the charts, but today we are going to just look at 3 different charts. The idea of the chart, actually, it starts from the data. So if I have the data, I will transform the raw data. For example, this is from the database. So I will transform the data into the data tables. So the data tables, we got the data tables from the previous section. We have the data tables. If you show into the tables, then you use the data tables from the library, the JavaScript library. But this is another kind of data. Later, we will take a look on these data tables. And after we have this data table, we will visualize the structure. So visualize the structure means whether you are going to use array or you are going to use some kind of table format, which is row and column. It depends on the structure on your gallery or your chart. And then after you already have the visual structure, then you can view it. And this one, it requires the human interaction. It means whenever you transform the data, yeah, you can choose what are the proper data tables. And then when you want to show the visual mapping, yeah, you can select what are the proper visual structure. And then what are the proper chart for your data. So there are many frameworks. And most of them are the JavaScript frameworks. And they have the procedures or steps to perform the visualization. Most of the frameworks apply almost the same procedures, almost the same, but it's not the same, but you can see almost the same. And this show the 10 JavaScript libraries for data visualization. So we have charts.js, d3.js, highchart.js, plotly.js, Google Charts, and so on. So yeah, it depends how you want to use the charts. Okay, so you can just take a look on this framework. For example, yeah, if you want to use the chart.js, so chart.js here, yeah, this is one of the example. Okay, so you can get the samples, and then this is the bar chart. Okay. This is the floating bar. This is the horizontal bar. This is the stack bar, and so on. And they usually put this kind of configuration. So most of the charts, they have similar configuration. So later we will take a look how we utilize this configuration. So they have a lot of charts like line chart. Okay, you can utilize this one and etc. The step to get the chart, first we need to load the chart library. So what kind of framework do you use? It depends on the chart, and you need to select the library, for example, the JavaScript. So we already learned using the CDN, the Content Delivery Network. Yeah, we will use the CDN to connect to the library. And the next, we need to prepare the data. So there are several ways to prepare the data in the JavaScript. And then we need to customize the charts. What charts do we need to use? And the last one, we draw the charts. So we will take a look how the step will work in the data visualization. So in this example, at first, I'm just going to use the Google Charts. In the later part, I'm going to use iCharts and mCharts. So what are they? Yeah, let's look in the details later. I'm going to use the simple HTML file for this one. In the main.py, let's create a new method, viewbar. And this method, let's return the request to the viewbar.html. And then create the viewbar.html in the folder templates. So copy paste the next slide into the main.py and the HTML file. Okay, so let's see this one. Let's add into the main.py. Okay, let me just put in the below section. So I have a new link, viewbar. And this viewbar will access the function viewbar, and then I'm going to access the viewbar.html. So the viewbar.html will be this one. So let me just copy, and then let's make a new HTML file. Viewbar.html. Okay, now let's rerun. Oh, let's rerun this code. Now I will connect to the link viewbar. Now you can see the bar chart. I think the bar chart in the Google is basic. So if you want to use the very fancy charts, yeah, you can use like the charts.js. Now let's just take a look on the Google Charts. So in the Google Charts, you can make this bar chart, and you can see here there are two data. The blue is the Asia, and the red is Europe. This is about the population in millions. So in 2012, the population in Asia is about 1,000 million, so 1 billion. Okay, more about 800. So it means about 800 million. In Europe, the population is about 400, okay, 400 millions, and so on. So you can see in this bar chart. Then how can we show this chart? So if you look at the viewbar.html, we have the script. So we load the script from this JStatic. So I'm using this JStatic because it is free. If you are going to use the fancy one, I think you need to use your key. You need to use your authorization key, and you need to use the authorization ID. But if you use the key and ID, I think it is a little bit complicated to get the key and ID. So I'm just using the static one. That's why the static one, maybe the chart is not that fancy. And then, yeah, this is the JavaScript that we can use from Google. And then I'm going to load the current packages, which is the core chart. So the core chart means the chart that is the core from Google. In the body section, I'm going to set up the size. In this case, the size is 550 multiplied by 400. So with the width is 550 pixel, and then the height is 400 pixel. And then I'm going to define the data. This is the data. So the data will be in the array format. I guess you already know array. Yeah, if you already learned the data structure, if you already learned the computer programming, I guess you will know this is an array. And there is a function in Google. The Google will convert the data into the visualization class, and it will transform from the array to the data table. So that's why I mentioned to you, if we have the raw data, it will transform to the data table. And then after we have this data table, the data table will be the instance into the bar chart. So we have the data. This is the variable data. So we have year, Asia, and Europe. So in 2012, in Asia, there are 900. In Europe, there are 390. In 2013, in Asia, there are 1,000. In Europe, there are 400, and so on. So you can take a look this data, and we are going to show this data into the bar chart. And then we will put the title. So it is an option. The title is population in millions. Now for the chart, I'm going to use the bar chart. This bar chart will be in the document.get element by ID container. So where is it? You will see the container. So we have the ID container. We will put the bar chart in this container. So the container will have the size 550 and the height is 400. So after this, for the chart, let's draw the chart. So we have the data, which is this one, and we have the options. The options is the title. So there will be another kind of options, but let's just use only one at this moment. After we define all the things in the draw chart, now call the draw chart. So the draw chart will be in the Google.charts set on load callback. So we will call this function whenever we start the page. So that's why you can see like this one. Okay, so you can see in the link view bar, you can see the bar chart. Now let's take a look on the details. When we load the chart library, it depends on the library. If you are using Google, then you may use this one, google.charts.load. But if you are using different kind of charts, you need to check what is the command to get charts. With few exceptions, all web pages with Google Charts should include the following lines in the head. So whenever you use the Google chart, you need to use this one. So this is the CDN. If you use different chart, you need to check what is the CDN. All charts require data dot. Okay. So the data dot means you need to connect your data into some kind of data table. If it is in the Google, you use the data table, but if it is in the different chart, maybe they have their own format. They have their own structure. Google Chart tools charts require data to be wrapped in a JavaScript class called google.visualization.datatable. So this class is defined in the Google Visualization Library that you loaded previously. So if you look at this, if you look at the example, so first we have the array data structure. This is array because we are using the square bracket. So this array data structure will be converted into data table. So we use the google.visualization.array to data table from this array. There is another way to use the data table. You can use directly the data tables. Other charts may use directly the data table, and you need to set up the data table by adding the column and adding the row. So for example, here, I'm going to add the column. So the column, I have two, which is a string, and the name of the column is browser. I have another column, and the column is in the type of number, and the column name is percentage. And I'm going to add the rows. The rows means the data in the form of array. So this array will be converted into the data tables. For example, the users of Firefox. So this is the name of web browser. The user of Firefox is about 45%, because this is the percentage. The browsers IE, the Internet Explorer, there are 26%. The users of Chrome, there are 12%. Safari is 8%, and so on. So maybe this is the data in one country. The options for the data, you can use JSON. So later we will take a look on some other charts. For the Google, they use the data tables, but for other charts, they may use the JSON. Or some of the charts, they use the JavaScript and JSON. And there's also another kind of charts, they use the GeoJSON. It means they use the latitude and longitude. So it depends on your charts, what kind of charts that you want to show. And every chart has many customizable options. The customizable options means you can define the title, and then you can define the colors, you can define the line thickness, the background fill, and so on. For example, the chart option, I have the title. You can set up the width, you can set up the height, you can set up whether it is 3D or not, and so on. So the chart option is different for each chart, and you need to check based on the library. So later on, we will check each of the library. And each chart type is based on the different class listed in the charts documentation. For example, if you want to generate the pie chart, then you will do the google.visualization.pie chart. If you use the bar chart, then you will use google.visualization.bar chart. So here I specify the chart, new google.visualization.bar chart. Then it means I'm using the bar chart. And then I'm going to draw this chart based on the data and based on the options that I already defined. So this bar chart will go to the container. The container, this is the ID in the document, or this is in the HTML file. So some charts use the basic package. So the basic package means, yeah, you in Google, they have the core chart. So it is the basic one. Other charts may require additional or different packages. So you need to check that one. Both pie and bar charts are included in the core chart that you loaded at the beginning of this tutorial. So you use the core chart, then you can use the pie chart, you can use the pie chart, the bar chart. If you want to use different kind of charts, for example, if you want to use tree map, or if you want to use the GeoChart on your page, then you must additionally load the tree map or GeoMap packages. So there are different kind of packages. So if you look at the Google Charts, so if you use the GeoChart, you can see the packages here. We use the GeoCharts. Let's say from different charts. Let's say I'm going to use the scatter chart. So if I use the scatter charts, we use the core chart. If I use the different chart, let's say the column chart, then you can see this one is using the core chart. Okay. Let's say the Geo combo line donut bubble tree map. So the tree map, they use the tree map packages. So each chart will have different packages. So you need to check which packages is good for this data type. So you can see all of them are using the array to data table. So you have the data in terms of array, and then you convert or you transform it into the data table that you want to show in your map. So there are so many charts in the Google, but I cannot do all the things. Let's just do the important charts. You already look at the first chart, which is the bar chart. So let's take a look on the different charts. For example, bubble chart. So what is bubble chart? Let's create a new method, view bubble, and return the request to the view bubble.html. And then let's create the view bubble.html in the folder templates and copy and paste the next slide into the min.py and HTML file. So this is the view bubble. Okay. Add into the min.py. Okay, I guess it is already familiar for you. I want to set up the link. So this is the link for the data visualization. This is the function view bubble. And then when I click this function, then I will go to view bubble.html. And now let's go to the data. Let's make the HTML file view bubble. This is a bubble chart. And if you look at the script, okay, so we're still using the GStatic. So this is from Google. And I'm still using the core chart. So the core chart is the main chart from Google. And the size is still the same. 550 pixel multiplied by 400. And this is the data table. Okay. So the data table, as I mentioned before, you need to manually add the column. I have the column 1, which is ID, and it is a string. And then I have the second column, which is the age, and the data type will be number. And I have the third column. The data type is number, and the column name is weight. So this is the row. Because we have 3 columns, then for each row, we have 3 data. Robert, 8, and 12. So maybe this is the name, is the ID, and then 8 is the age, and weight is here. Then you will add the rows. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. After we have 6 rows, now I have the title. The title is age versus the weight. And then the width is 550 and the height is 400. And I'm going to create the chart. The chart will be bubble chart. So you can see here, the Google.visualization will be still the same. The only difference is just the chart name. You can check later. For example, if you want to know new Google.visualization. Okay. So you can check what kind of charts that are available here. So here, because I use the bubble chart, so you can have the bar chart. Actually, you need to have a far another chart one. Let's check this one. So sometimes you don't need to worry. You just call this one, because I already called the bubble chart, so it will show that one. But if you use the pie chart, it will show different way. Okay. So you need to check if you want to use the pie chart, then you can check on this one. What is the pie chart and what are the parameters? Because each of this one will have different parameters. And then, I'm going to draw this chart. The data is this one. And the options is this one. And if I run view bubble, So this is the bubble chart. Robert, the age is 8 and the weight is 12. So this is age versus weight. Maybe this is the age, this is the weight. And then we have 8 and 12. Ramesh, the age is 11 and the weight is 14. Karim, the age is 6.5 and the weight is 7, and so on. Then we can see the position for each of this bubble. The other kind of charts, let's see the geo chart. Okay, how to leverage the geo chart. Again, let's create the new method viewGeo and return the request to the viewGeo.html. And then let's create the viewGeo.html and then copy and paste the next into your main.py and the HTML file. So let's make the viewGeo. So the viewGeo means I'm going to make the link and then just go to the viewGeo.html. And then let's try to look at this one. Let's see. View. Oh, okay, I need to restart. Okay, so this is the view. And you can see the country in the world. And then you can see the numbers. Let's say this is just an example. The Russia, the popularity is 700. Canada, the popularity is 500. United States, the popularity is 300, and so on. Okay. And you can see this scale. France, the popularity is 600. South Korea, the popularity is 800, and so on. This is from the Google chart, and I'm going to the back. I'm using the package GeoChart. Actually, this is the API key. Okay, so someone shared the API key for free, so I just use this one. But for more interactive, you can find your own key. So you can get your own key to the Google's developer. So you can check your API key when you go to this developers.google.com. Oh, this is in the Korean. Can I change to English? Yeah, for the map API, it requires the map API key. So this map API key, you can go to Google and then you can check the map API to make it better in the options. So I'm just using this key for example. Okay. If you can use your own key, it is better than this key. And I'm going to use the draw region map, which is the data here. And this is the data from the array into the data tables. And the good thing here is they can detect the country name. So when you say that the country name is Germany, it will automatically check where is Germany. So here the Germany. Here, where is the Germany? Oh, they do not detect the Germany. Right? Okay, here. Germany, the popularity is 200. So you can detect the name. If you don't specify the country name, then you cannot see the tooltip. So we call this is the tooltip. United States, because you already set the United States, then you can see the United States available in the visualization. Brazil. So when you mention Brazil, then you can see Brazil on the tooltip. But the other countries, you cannot see it. Canada. You can see also the Canada. Here is the popularity. And then France, Russia, South Korea. When you define with the name, you can directly see in this view map. So there are some advanced charts that we can leverage. For example, the high charts. So high charts is one of the advanced chart, and actually you need to pay some money. It is a commercial. If you look at the charts, so this is a very good charts, and especially you can use the GPD. So they prepare already the prompt. So what do you want to show in your chart? So let's say create a stock chart that compares 3 series over 10 years. So they will directly give you the code, and then you can directly use this code. So this is the data. And yeah, they mentioned this is in the high charts. So if you want to connect to this, you need to understand high charts. You need to understand how to leverage this title, the text, subtitle, text, and so on. So they just generate this one, but how to put it into the high charts. So we will learn how to connect to the high chart. So I'm using only one example. Okay? I'm using one example. Let's just use the view dynamics and return the request to the view dynamic.html. And let's create view dynamic in the folder templates. So let's put the code in the main.py and the HTML in the folder HTML. So let's make the view dynamic. Okay, I'm going to connect to the view dynamic.html. So here, the high chart is very long. Okay, that's why I give you the PowerPoint. So if you look at the code, it is very long. And okay, let's take a look. How can we understand this data format? So I'm going to make the view dynamic.html, and then you can just copy and paste. And now let's take a look one by one. So I will restart the code, and then I will show the view dynamic. So this is a real-time chart. Let's say you get some data from the other API, and then you want to show it into the real time. Then yeah, you can see the real-time chart in this time series data. So let's say if you have the stock data, so this is very good. You can show the stock data in the real time. So this data happens in every second. Now let's take a look how the code works for this pie chart. For many libraries or for many frameworks, they will use the jQuery. So that's why I teach you Ajax. And in the Ajax, you will use the jQuery most of the time. And then for the highcharts, you will use this highchart.js. So this is the free version. If you want to use the commercial version, you need to pay some money. It means you need to have the key, in order to get the good charts. But this is just the basic one. Again, the container, it shows only the width and the height. And I'm using the JavaScript to define the chart. So you can see that the format of the JavaScript is different with the Google chart. The type, this is the type of the chart. I'm going to use the spline. And then the animation, I'm going to use the highchart.svg. So this highchart.svg is from this highchart.js. And the margin right is 10. Yeah, you can define by yourself about the margin. And for this data, I'm using an event. So they have the definition about the data about event. They have a function about the series. So the series means the data in one column. There will be an interval. For example, here 1000. 1000 means 1 second. So every 1 second, there will be a new data here. What is the data? The data of X. X will be a new date. And I'm going to get the time, which is the current time. And the Y is any random data from the function mathematics. That's why you can get this one. Yeah. So you can see this is the time. This is the current time. And this is random data. So why the time is this one? This is the GMT time, or the time zone is +0. In Korea, we are in the GMT +9. Okay, so yeah, this is the current time is 10:49. And then we have the title, we have the x-axis. So the title is live random data. The x is the date time. And then we have the pixel interval is 150. So this is the parameter. And the y is the value. And the plot line, we are using the value 0, the width is 1, and we set up the color as like this one. So you can see the color is in the gray format. And then we have the tooltip. Okay, so this is what that I mentioned before. Tooltip. The tooltip means whenever you move your mouse, this is the tooltip. Okay, the word random data, and the random data in 149.58. It is 0.29. So this tooltip will show you the series.name. So what is the series? And then it shows the date format. And then it goes to the next line. And then it shows the Y. The Y means from the mathematics.random. So we set only 2 digits after the comma. And then the plot, Okay. The plot options, it is using the area. This is just a kind of parameter, so you can set up. Let's say the point start at 1940. The symbol is circle, so you can see this symbol is circle. And then the radius is 2, so it is the size of the circle. And then the state, hover, enable true. Hover means when you move your mouse here, then you will see directly the tooltip. Okay, so when you move your mouse, then you will see directly. Legend, it means the format of this legend value and this data. It is false. Exporting, false, because yeah, we do not want to show the to CSV file. And then this is the series, the random data. So the random data will be a function from the current time, and then I'm going to do the loop. So this is the loop. The loop is from -19 until 0. So if you look at this one, there are 20 data. So every 20 data, then you will move to the left. After 20 data, you will move to the left. So we have -19 until 0, and then I will be added by 1. And then whenever I have 19 data, I will push it into the data. So the x will be the time plus I multiply by 1000, it is 1 second. And y will be the math.random. So I will put this one into the data. And for every of this option, let's put it into the JSON format. JSON.chart will be the chart, JSON.title will be title, JSON.tooltip will be tooltip, JSON.x-axis, JSON.y-axis, and so on. So all the things will be in the JSON format. After you have this option, you just put into the high chart. The UTC I'm setting as false, so it means just using the 00 GMT plus 0. And I'm going to use the container. So the container is the ID in the HTML, and I'm using the high chart, and I'm using the JSON. So this is the JSON that I generate using the title that are available in high chart. So if you use high chart, then you need to understand this thing before you run into your HTML. Okay, so this is the example of the dynamic chart using high chart. Okay, let me stop here. Let's have a break. I will continue after the break.